Anyway, the point is, you'd expect them to be from like Iran or California, but I can't immediately tell where they're from. These pistachios, so fucking. Hello and welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the Cosmos from independent validator teams. And it's only been a week. We took a week off, 1 week off in a year, and I'd forgotten that that's how this show starts. So welcome Dan from Defiant Labs as well. We're coming back hard. Not only are we coming back all Quora last week. Regulars of the show will know, just had a baby. I was the only one that was ready to do the show last week.
That's true.
I'm throwing everybody else under the bus.
That's true.
Nobody else has any excuse. I was here. I was ready. I was the one that had to cancel. Although, to be fair, Schultzy was trying to tell me that he couldn't make it, and my phone was like not with me, and so Schultzy was just panicked that I didn't know. It was just like, dude, and I was just like, oh right, yeah. I mean, I assumed you guys had already rugged me, but. Hey, happy days. So anyway, we've got Dan from Defiant, and I guess we've got 2 weeks of Cosmos drama to catch up on. So that's 20 years in normal time, something like that, 2 weeks. And yeah, so what I mean, I obviously haven't been doing anything other than really changing nappies. So I nearly missed an upgrade on a home chain because I was like, when is that upgrade supposed to be? I feel like somebody told me there was an upgrade or I helped prepare an upgrade or something. And it turned out it was already happened, but I'd already done the work for it. So it was automation, baby. We're all big fans of automation here, and this is why. And for those of you that don't have kids yet, but run validators, get your automation game sorted.
Did you figure out a way to automate those poopy diapers?
No, but the Wee Ban is actually wearing a piece of future Game of Nodes merch at the moment. Which
oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, if I
one,
I could go and get them and kind of what you said. You told me it's an NFT. Did you say it was one of one?
It's a one of one.
It is one of one.
There's everybody knows there's nothing unique in the world except for NFTs that live forever on the blockchain. Okay, so don't give me that. I refuse to believe.
I think that's a fact.
True. Heard it here.
Yeah, nothing is truly as artisanal as an NFT. But yeah, I don't know. I got to say. So, what the item in question is a Game of Nodes baby grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very cool. Usurper, the man with the plan, responsible for that one. Is it too good for the DGens, or should we actually do Game of Nodes merch? Because I fucking love it. I think it's brilliant.
Do you?
I think it's brilliant. I'm the only one that gets the joke.
I think the problem with doing Game of Nodes merch is just the fear that no one will buy it, and then we just look like noobs.
Yeah. But we got over that when we realized that no one's going to watch the show either. So does it honestly really matter?
Yeah.
Well, so the six people that watch the show become the six
for the next conference. I will totally rock some Game of Nodes.
There you go. All right, we got one.
Yeah.
Well, but this is it. We always talk about does anybody wear merch? And we were literally talking yesterday or the day before about
we're in Cosmos merch right now.
Look at that. Yeah.
Well, didn't we see somebody there was somebody a friend of a friend or a one remove connection saw somebody in Artifacts merch at a completely unrelated conference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
they just post about because they do a really good job with merch. Artifact doesn't. It's a cool brand and they have great
Artifact has the killer merch, man. He's the merch man.
They do a really good job. And then and then they give I'm not gonna dox them, but they give a lot of stuff away, like shirts and other types of things. And then he just put in on a chat that somebody at some random SUI, was it a SUI event or something similar to that?
Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah, I missed an event. Yeah,
I missed an event. Somebody's walking around with an Artifact shirt, and somebody else saw it. Oh my god, you guys are everywhere. You never know where that stuff's going to show up.
I thought one of my favorite purchases was Luna Loot. Remember them? How much stuff that they had? You could get
Luna Loot. That's right.
You could get tennis shoes with different protocol logos on there. They had everything.
Those looked really cool, though. I'll be honest. I wanted one.
Yeah.
Now, hold up. So, okay, the Milady merch is probably the best merch. Did I tell you guys about this?
That's where
what?
In the context, I think it was at a rave at 2 a.m. and you were probably spiked with something. So
it was
your
a Milady.
Judgment might have been a little bit off.
It was a Milady rave. I found out later. It was actually a Milady NFT rave, and they had rave merch, and it was like free. It was like, because it's the free merch for the crypto stuff. They were handing out joints, Milady joints.
What?
So,
of course, it's legal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't keep up with America, man.
Well, there's 50 different rules around what's legal, what's not.
Different Americas, aren't there? 51 different Americas,
right?
Something like that.
That's right. They have Milady joints at the thing. That's a good merch.
That's actually quite cool. Fair enough.
And they are very strong.
That's funny.
Yeah, I had to make use of my stopwatch. It was like a whole situation where I had to set the timer, make sure I was found out where I lived and was in a taxi before I got to 10 minutes. Otherwise, there was no telling what might have happened.
The timer is going.
We have I'm in Maryland on the East Coast, and in 2 months it's going to be legalized here, recreational use. And we just had our first cannabis workspace opening up a few miles from me, where it's you can just go in there, you can work and chill, but it's right next to a dispensary.
That's wild. I don't know if I would want that. You're working, then everyone's
just
so
chilling.
Who has Funyuns?
Yep.
Funyuns.
Dude, if you're a snack vendor in that workspace, you're gonna make bank.
Yeah, right.
I think just after legalization, I was in California and I got given what I thought was a pack of matches with a dispensary name on it, and I was like, "Ha, funny souvenir." I just left it in my wallet for literally. This is how frequently I clean out my wallet, literally years. And then years later, I was actually cleaning out my wallet. I was just throwing stuff out. I was like, "Oh, that's that fucking okay." Ha ha ha. And then I kind of just sort of got rid of it, and all these seeds spilled out, and I was like, "Oh, it wasn't matches." And I realized that that had been in my wallet. I had been to, I have backpacked across China. I had been to all these places where that shit is very illegal. And it just, for whatever, I guess they're just dried seeds, right? So no sniffer dogs or anything to notice, but they'd just been in my wallet for 4 years or something. I was like, holy shit. Okay.
Crossed many state lines.
Yeah. Fucking check the freebies you're given in future. So, no, before you leave America, just check you haven't got any of those Milady, I nearly said Milady NFTs, Milady joints in your pockets. The NFTs are also illegal in a bunch of territories, so you want to be careful. They're just, the NFTs are too shit.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what I can and can't take home. When we're at the jerky store today, I'm I wonder how much of this I can get away with in my bag.
It's processed, right? You can take that stuff home.
Yeah, I feel like it's not a threat to the economy or anything. So.
Yeah, I think you're good.
You can't take there's all those things like tea that sometimes you can't again, one of my, as it turned out, accidental smuggling things was I brought back loads of tea from China, and then it's just on my desk at work. I still have loads of this. It's really good tea. And then somebody was like, "Do you just bring that back in your rucksack?" I was like, "Yeah, what's the big deal?" And they were like, it's an agricultural product that might have bugs and stuff on it. I was like, it's been in a sealed container for 4 years. Any bugs are dead. And they're like, still definitely illegal. I was like, just.
No, I want to hear about your American adventure. How's it going?
Smuggling.
So funny.
How is my America adventure going?
Yeah.
It's very ad hoc. I was just actually talking to Schultzy today about how incredibly tiring it's been when you just run around the place unplanned. It's both tiring and expensive. So yeah, I mean it's been good, but like I said, unplanned. So I have been to Denver, Breckenridge, which I don't recommend to anyone because it is so fucking high in the air. So yeah, we were all dying while we were there.
We were. It was sad.
Yeah, it's people walking around with cans of air, huffing air and shit.
Literally, it was wild.
Literally.
Yeah.
Is it challenging to like maintain your validators at all while you're on the road? Like, do you need physical access to any of them ever?
No, not physical access. It hasn't been a problem managing nodes. You know,
not physical
automation,
access, but emotional access.
Yeah,
emotional access.
It is like definitely organization is like a lot more difficult when you're on the road. So you rely a lot more on your phone, and you know, when you're on your phone and not in your office, you read things, and sometimes you forget what you read if you don't make a note of it straight away. So obviously, when you're going through like Discord and looking at all the upcoming upgrades and different things that you need to be involved in, you can like make notes on your computer and make a to-do list and, you know, action, that type of stuff. But it's a little bit more difficult to manage that workflow on your phone. So whilst we haven't missed anything, it's just like been a little bit of a pain. I think I did an upgrade on the street the other day. I just like whipped out my laptop and kneeled down, like took a knee, chucked my laptop on top of my bag, and just like quickly did an upgrade on something. So, you know, it's a little bit different like that.
Did you stop everyone in the New York City sidewalks like people?
Oh, they just like peel around.
Doing an important Chihuahua update here. Get the fuck out of the way.
Get the fuck out of my way,
dude. So many shitcoins lying in the balance here.
Yeah, I mean, so
I've seen quite a few good ones of those. Like I think it was Highlander, like early doors Juno. I feel like this was quite a while ago, but knowing fucking Cosmos, it was probably 5 minutes ago, and I'm just getting older at a rapid pace. I think he was like camping for a weekend, and there was just it was just like him in like a woodland clearing with like a phone propped up on a tree.
I did the same thing this is awful. I was at a camp with my boys, and I brought a laptop because I knew something was coming, and I was up at 2 a.m. troubleshooting via a 3G connection. I can only get a shell connection to start Cerberus. Looking back, maybe not my wisest time. In hindsight, maybe not the best use of my time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of people I know have done one on a plane when playing Wi-Fi. That seems quite common. I've done one on the Channel Tunnel, so under the ocean.
That's so cool.
Like a bomb.
The Wi-Fi fucking works now.
Dude, the plane Wi-Fi. I just used it coming back from Denver. Like that thing on, I forget what airline I was on, but like it was hauling ass. Like it was no problem.
I will tell you, the Wi-Fi on Amtrak blows.
Is there Wi-Fi? I thought you had to use your phone or something.
Yeah, so a lot of the time you have to use your phone, but there's some Amtrak trains that have Wi-Fi, and it sucks.
Yeah,
so,
it can't be. It can't be.
Fuck you, Amtrak.
They're not.
Yeah.
This is what business broadband or whatever is for. You just get something with good roaming, and you just have to get fucked every day by your provider.
I need the thing that like Schultz has, the little box that you just take around with you.
The MiFi, it's glorious. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I wish that was a worldwide thing. You just like slap that thing in your bag and tear around everywhere. That'd be great.
But what is that, Schultz? Is that like different from like a Wi-Fi hotspot you activate on your phone?
So it uses T-Mobile's bands, so the Sprint and T-Mobile bands, and you just get 5G everywhere you go. Well, everywhere you've got T-Mobile. I assume you could go to like Mexico with it because T-Mobile has a deal with Mexico where you just have full coverage. But I doubt it elsewhere.
You pay like a yearly subscription and it's just unlimited for the year 5G.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It's great. That's what I lived off
of. Creates a Wi-Fi point for you. Is that how it works? And you connect to it.
And it's fast. It's bloody fast. It's actually faster than my home internet.
Nice.
So how is that different to just an access point that's a SIM card?
It's basically the same thing. It actually uses a SIM card. It's just the big benefit is that it's unlimited, one, and that you pay once a year and you get unlimited for the entire year. So it's $500 for the year of unlimited internet, which is great.
But you get unlimited 5G for the whole year for $500?
For $500, yeah.
Yeah.
And that includes the hardware.
And that's ultra wide, right? Like that's 5G UW, right? So you get the
Yep.
Schultze, if I had any sense at all, I would have asked to borrow that from you.
Yeah.
You know, that would have been smart. I even brought it with me to Denver.
since you're exactly. You could have brought it back to him, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, meanwhile I've been like struggling to stay connected for the last like 3 weeks.
You could just get a business mobile and have like 2 SIMs and have the second SIM be an unlimited SIM with 5G.
You can shut the fuck up.
I think let's give you 1,000 solutions on how you fucked up the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, because that's just like I think we have 9 terabytes a month for about $22.
Yeah,
Really?
look, it's a little bit more difficult for a foreigner to like get a good data plan.
Fair
So
enough.
I have to rely on apps like AirAllo and use eSIMs, but like 10 gigs is like $26 or something. So
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I've
you
used
ca- I guess you
used
can-
2 of those packs.
I mean, you can expense the fuck out of it. So like, you don't just
Expense it to who? Myself, you peanut.
Well, no, but what I mean is like, if you're like, oh, I'm going to be in a place for a month, and just like put my name is Big Balls, Mr. Big Balls blockchain. I live at 123 Denver Street in Denver, Colorado, and then get a fucking contract. Like they ever check that address, do they?
Doxed.
I
Yeah.
feel like
Mr.
that
Big
wouldn't
Balls.
work.
Just use Todd's address. He'll appreciate it.
Exactly.
That's
I mean, I already send my shit to Todd's house, so might as well like,
Yeah, I love
you
it.
know.
Perfect.
But
So
to
it's-
answer your question, Dan, my travels have been interesting. Really loved New Orleans. That place was awesome.
Hmm.
Just around the French Quarter. The rest of the place is crap.
Sorry, people.
And yeah, Atlanta. Sorry if you live in Atlanta. That place blows. And where else did I go? New York is pretty cool.
And DC, right? You stopped in DC.
Yeah, DC. I did not. I should not have gone to Atlanta and just spent like 3 days in DC.
DC, you could spend weeks and just. I mean, it depends on how much American history you care about and whatever. But there's so much shit in DC. It's amazing.
I found it all very interesting. I've been averaging like probably 15 to 20 Ks a day walking.
Steps. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In these cities. So,
You
and
look
some
thinner.
of like a lot of that is carrying my bag around as well.
Right.
I mean, I haven't been drinking beer as much because like I'd be bankrupt by now if I was drinking my regular amount of beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going to a pub and drinking beer in America with our exchange rate is just not very good.
and then they want fucking tips every beer, and you're like, but I
Yeah.
just had one beer. I don't
Yeah. So like,
tip. What the fuck, man?
I'll tell you what, like to buy a beer at a pub is if you were to put the menus side by side, the Australian menus and the American menus, like the numbers would be the same, right? But then like you add on the 50% and then another 20% for a tip, and it's getting expensive. Like I'm looking at, $17 in my money for a beer, whereas in Australia it'd be like, $10. So
Right.
I feel like the cost of a beer sometimes, especially in a city in America, is approaching like a cocktail in a cocktail bar in the financial bit of London. You know what I mean? Where the
it's approaching a meal.
Yeah.
Like the cost of a beer is approaching a meal.
maybe not quite a meal, but like it
A hot dog cart meal.
Yeah. So I
Way
got
more
hot
than
dogs. I got hot dogs in New York. 2 hot dogs, $2 each for the hot dog and a
Bam.
can. It was like
See?
$5. Yeah.
Did you get those Nathans from Coney Island or whatever?
No, there was a 5-star rated hot dog stand in New York, right next to Central Park. The dude was awesome. He's like this Greek guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, he's got 500 reviews, 5-star reviews.
Like I'm going.
Well,
to
what
do it.
point is that like more of a meme than an actual? Like, are they self-perpetuating past a point? People are like, yeah, it's definitely 5 stars.
Well, I don't know. The guy was awesome. The hot dogs were good.
Would you give him 5 stars?
Seems like
Yeah.
great value.
Boom.
Yeah.
501. There you go.
$2 for a fucking hot dog? Jesus.
So DC,
Yeah, they
New
just
York,
specify.
and then you moved on, right?
Now I'm in Portland now, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm at Schultz's house now in his basement.
And then you're going south to LA, right? So you have a plan. What's your plan to get out of there?
Yeah, I
No
don't have a
plan.
plan.
Oh,
No
perfect.
plan.
Lovely.
Yeah, he's just gonna move in. Basically, is what it
That's
sounds
fine.
like.
You might as
So
well.
much the same as like the last
From parents'
Yeah,
basement
3
to
weeks.
friend's basement.
I have no fucking plan.
The life of a Cosmos validator going up in the world.
I tell you what though, my accommodation at New York fucking sucked. And I've realized that there's like this bullshit thing that they do in America where the hotels will like have a headline base price like on their
Oh yeah.
on the things, and then like when you book
That was it.
Yep. See ya.
I know.
Who kicked him out?
I didn't kick him out.
Obviously can't be the internet.
Illuminati.
Clearly cannot be the internet.
They're like, oh, he's going to tell everybody how the rate system actually works. Let's get rid of him quick.
Cut him off. Traveling gypsy.
So anyway, like I was saying, so they add on this resort fee, right? So I stayed at the Paramount Hotel on 46th. Don't stay at this piece of shit. The room was just like a shitty double bed. The bathroom, like, you couldn't turn around and it was so fucking small. There was about 3 square feet of area around the bed.
Dude, you're in Manhattan. What do you want?
And there was fucking construction started at 7 a.m. every morning, right?
That's all
They
New
were
York.
they were hammering rocks across the road. And
That only happens
like
in
literally,
Australia.
they had the rock hammers start at 7 a.m. on the dot. But like once you take the fee, the tax, and the and this fucking stupid resort fee that they hide in there, then I could have got like a decent room just around the corner at another hotel. So it's just it's scammy, yeah. And the way they market it, I asked them if I could cancel. I said you're scamming people. They said no, so I had to stay in a hotel where I told them they were scammers. It was great, and
So they were also spitting in your coffee after that point.
yeah,
Exactly.
probably.
At best.
I'm probably shitting in my pillows. And then and then when I left, this annoyed me the most. When I left, they so I haven't had any cash the whole time I've been in the US, right? I've just tapped for everything, not had any cash at all. And then and I'll tell you a funny story about that in a minute. And when I left this hotel, I wanted to like store my bag, right? So I could go and cruise around for a couple of hours before I had to go to the airport. And it was $2 to store it with this with the hotel. So usually it's free at a hotel, right?
Should
You've
be.
just stayed at. And it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
you know, it's free. They chuck a tag and it sticks in the bag room.
They don't give a shit.
$2, okay, it's practically free anyway. Except it was fucking cash only or Venmo, and you can't get Venmo unless you're a fucking US resident. I didn't have any cash. It would have cost me like $5 FBOS fee just to get fucking cash out for the two. And I said, you know what, fuck you, and I went and paid someone else $8.
Oh.
And then later that day, I ended up getting cash out anyway, so I could get a sweet hot dog.
What? That guy didn't take. He didn't take credit cards.
Nah, mate, just gish.
Just gish.
Yeah, but I was willing to go get the gish for a $2 hot dog. So, but that other
You
fucking
bought a
place.
hot dog from Nico Bellic from Grand Theft Auto 4.
That's a
Gish?
weird reference,
Yeah.
dude.
I think he's going with the gish. Yeah,
It's going to gish.
gish.
This is my cousin. All right. Hello, cousin. So
really-
just we actually have not only do we have some viewers, we presumably have some viewers who are keen to hear from Dan as well. But yeah, shout out to people who stuck with us for taking 1 week off.
Can you please?
Did we take 2 weeks? We took 2 weeks off, right?
Do we take
Can
2
you-
weeks off?
Well, we
No,
did-
just we only didn't stream for 1 week.
no, but
Well,
we
keep
skipped the Denver
Denver.
week.
Yeah.
We meant
think
to
you're
do
right.
it, and then we got too drunk, and then you were at this Milady party for 24 hours, and then you came.
Oh yeah,
home
you
and
guys
that's
rugged
it.
me that week as well, didn't you?
That's correct. Yeah.
So have we skipped 2 weeks?
We've skipped not in
2
a row.
weeks.
Skipped one.
Not in
then
a
we
row.
had one.
It
then
was
we
in a
skipped
row.
one.
No, we had one in between there. Didn't
Did
we?
we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have I only missed one episode?
No, you've missed like 7 episodes.
Oh,
You-
that's right,
you're
because you
just-
rugged us in the middle of one. Or at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
end of
yeah.
one.
That's when you hit. That's when you joined from Denver, and then you hit the end button,
And
and,
then
then it
rugged
was
us halfway
that was
through.
last week, right? Yeah, I forgot about that. That's right.
Too funny.
According to YouTube, your last
So-
stream was
so
13
the-
days ago.
We're gonna-
The energy from the chat is that people are not happy with our lack of either punctuality. Well, I mean that's every week. So, but also not doing a week, commitment lacking.
well, it's a bear market. I
um,
mean, what do you want?
Yeah, I mean,
We-
I think
Literally, all of
thumbs
our
up.
rewards for a week wouldn't pay for the time to
Exactly.
be on this.
Exactly.
That truth
Um,
hurts.
yeah. So there's a we have an Australian in there.
Anyway, the
Anyway,
when you refer to Dan, can you please call him by his proper name? Define Dan.
Divine Dan.
Define Dan.
Is that really what?
Call, call me what you want, man. Define this
Define Dan.
company.
It's Defiant Dan.
Define Dan.
I like
yeah,
Fantastic Man better. That title is great.
It's a good one.
Fantastic man, Defiant Dan.
Yeah, for anybody that's an Alan Partridge fan, you might get that reference. Cool. Okay, so shall we talk to our guest now? It's been
It's only 23 minutes.
We've ignored our guest for 25 minutes. We
It's
should
like half
probably
the time as usual.
Or should we be even more standoffish since this is our first week back after a little while away?
No.
Okay, hang on. Let me kick this off. Let me ask Defiant Dan some shit. So Dan, before I start, is the thing is that like pretty public now? People know about that? You know, the thing that I'm talking about before I start talking about it?
I do. We can talk about that, but there's been some developments on that where I'm not going to be involved with it.
Okay, so I'll give a small amount of background to the thing. So Defiant Labs, I believe, Dan, and who's your partner, Dan?
Yeah, so basically me and a friend, Kyle, we've been working together for like 6 years. We created Defiant early 2022, and we're working on a couple of things. You want me to just kind of tell you a little bit about the company, and then you can
tell us about the company, then I'll ask you about the
you can just tell us about the company, obviously address, obviously registration number.
We're really not
excuse me. I'm doing the interviewing here. Don't make me fucking mute.
Can you Dan,
I'm a Virgo, so I want to know what you are.
Can you just interview yourself, because Null is really not a good interviewer.
Dan, tell us about the company.
Tell me where you grew up.
Then I'll ask you some pointed questions about the the other stuff that you got going on. Hit it.
Yeah, sure. So we primarily are doing like 3 things. So the biggest thing that we started with first was trying to solve a tax problem for Cosmos. So my goal was I wanted to index all of Cosmos, like pre-index it all into a MySQL database, or actually we use Postgres, but I wanted to index it in there and make like a nice friendly app that you can go to, connect your wallet to, get all of your taxes. Primarily for US citizens, because that's like the tax law that I know, but I imagine it could be adapted to others. So that's like the big thing that we've been working on. We did that with a grant from the Interchain Foundation via Strangelove. And then we also got some help from Osmosis for actually indexing like all of their custom modules. Like instead of just like the bank, stake, gov, AllC, we added like the GAM, the superfluids, all those different modules. And we made it so it's like really easy. You just go to, I'll post the link in the chat here. Our tool's called Sycamore, which is a great name. It's like you're sick of more taxes. Like I love that name. But posted in both the chats if you guys want to check it out. But yeah, you just type in your address right now and then you can get your Osmosis taxes. And we're looking to expand to a whole bunch of other chains. The other main thing that we're working on right now is also for the Osmosis team. They wanted a solution to have the mainnet and the testnet prices match. So we're creating a custom module that will allow us to basically scan mainnet, see what the pool ratio balance is, and then on testnet we'll be able to mint tokens, and we'll be calling that module to make the testnet pools match. So like once a day, we're trying to bring parity to Osmosis testnet to be similar to mainnet, which we think will help out with like development. So that's the second big thing that we're working on. And then the third thing that Kyle and I started together, but actually Kyle's going to take it and run it on his own, is a arbitrage solution. So I think that's what Noel was hinting at earlier.
Yeah, so like I find your arbitrage thing really cool, and I will try to explain it the best I can so I can ask further questions. But so basically, the guys at Defiant have created, it's an API which simulates the transaction and works out the arbitrage between the pools so that you can submit your transaction to the API, and then it will give back to you a message with the transaction as well as the other transactions you need to make to self-arbitrage that that transaction which you're unbalancing the pools with. So you'll get the most benefit back from the other pools instead of someone else taking the arbitrage in those pools. But you were looking for a home for that to be able to integrate that with an AMM somewhere, or at least the UI of an AMM. And I know I tried to help you hook up with a couple of people to try and make that happen. But yeah. I'm just wondering, like, you know, can you talk about how that went? or if you had any traction with that, or if you've just sort of given up on trying to include it in a UI somewhere, or.
Yeah, no progress is being made. I actually just sent a message to Kyle to see if he wants to hop in here and talk about it, because he's really been running point on it. But yeah, we ended up basically what the tool does is we realized, hey, if you can predict the user's intent ahead of time, you can bundle both the swap and the arbitrage transaction at the same time. So you basically, you back run users, which is okay because the users still get their same rate, but you front run everyone else, like all the osmosis or all the arbitrage bots that exist on chain. So you kind of get placed between those. The user still gets a good rate, but the transaction never goes on chain really to the point where people can compete against it, because you know it ahead of time. But the only way that you can do that is if either you're making the trade or you're someone like a DEX or a wallet and you know the trade that the user's about to make. So that's what we really targeted our tool at, is having that advanced knowledge and being able to capitalize MEV on there. We built out a couple different clients for like testing it out so people can integrate. We've talked with almost every DEX, I think, in the Cosmos. We have Kyle has a proposal up right now on Astroport. I think the two leading proposals on there are his company, Redpoint, which is what it's going to be called. And oh, here he is.
Welcome, Kyle.
I'll let him talk.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Hey, Kyle.
Good. So I'm not fully caught up on what you're talking about, but did you basically want me to give a rundown of what Redpoint is?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah. So what we were talking about, just to catch you up, is we were talking a bit about the is that what you're calling it? Sorry, Redpoint, the arbitrage tool.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So we were talking a little bit about Redpoint and just how you guys were trying to find a home for that in a UI somewhere, probably with a DEX, and just sort of talking about how that was going. So you are the man with the information. So we
Awesome.
invited you up to talk about it. Hit it.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone here is aware of this, but we recently just submitted a proposal to Astroport. So basically, like high level, Redpoint is an API that you can submit a user's trade information to, like tell it what trade a user plans to make on a DEX, but the trade has not been conducted yet. And Redpoint will tell you two things. Number one, it can tell you the best way to make that trade, which some DEXs may or may not want to know. Like they might already know how they want to make the trade. And number two is it will tell you how to follow up that user's trade with an arbitrage trade. So at present, it does cyclic arbitrage within the DEX. So like if you use the API for Osmosis, it will tell you how to make a trade for, let's say 100 Osmo through a certain set of pools and get back more than 100 Osmo. Obviously on Osmosis, this is kind of useless now because there's ProtoRev on Osmosis, which already is an arbitrage capture algorithm that's in protocol. So as ProtoRev gets more advanced, external tools will be less and less useful. But the point of Redpoint basically is at present, it's an off-chain API that can give you that kind of information to make better trades. As you'd see in our Astroport proposal, we plan to make a smart contract that does this fully on chain. So it would get all the pool prices and things like that of Astroport or whatever DEX it's integrated with from that DEX's LPs. It would calculate the arbitrage trades and make those trades all on chain. And the way that would work at present for a DEX like Astroport is they'd just call the smart contract in the transaction after the user's trade. So it would kind of be a two-part transaction where part one is the same way it is today for the DEX, where they just do the user swap. and part 2 is the smart contract for Redpoint. And Redpoint also, like for example, on Astroport, also offered to pay the user's transaction fees fully. So like the user is not going to incur any additional gas fees from like calling this smart contract. So I think that's pretty much like high level a rundown of what the tool is. If anyone has any questions.
How did it come to be? I mean, it sounds really cool. What I'm imagining as like an initial pass would have been just like what, generating the JSON for it, and then you could issue it via the CLI. So then what, I guess you created it for yourself originally, right?
Yeah, so all this software was custom made by me. Honestly, originally I saw transactions on chain that were doing arbitrage where they were on Osmosis and they were trading some amount of Osmo for more Osmo. And I kind of asked myself, how is that possible? How is somebody literally making free money? You know, as I learned more about it, I obviously realized it's not free money, right? It has a service to the community, which is that it balances the pools. And I figured out, you know, how it works. So originally it really started as an arbitrage bot on Osmosis that was just, you know, racing, competing with all of the other bots on Osmosis to do what everyone's doing there. It's kind of like a losing game though. There's lots of transaction fees there. There's spamming the chain with tons of failed transactions. And that's kind of, I think, what the Osmosis team realized is that it's not an efficient way to do arbitrage. So out of that, Redpoint was kind of born where it's like, hey, the reason all this arbitrage exists is because, you know, people are making certain trades. So why not have the users tell you what trades they're planning to make in advance, and then you can calculate what the resulting arbitrage would be in advance and guarantee that you capture that arbitrage rather than, you know, random bots on chain capturing that arbitrage. So when I came to that realization, that's when I realized you could actually, in Cosmos SDK, you can package multiple messages into a single transaction, and then you can atomically do more than one thing. In this case, you're kind of atomically doing the user swap plus the arbitrage swap in a single transaction. So that's kind of the technique that's at the basis of Redpoint's tool, and obviously the algorithm to figure out the arbitrage as well.
So do you see, so besides the current proposal that's out there, like, do you have any other leads about where this might be integrated as well, or other things that you're working on with it?
Yeah, so I'm hoping as one of like the first steps here to get an integration with a DEX front end or like a popular aggregator like TFM that can use off-chain tooling that does this. Because most of the DEXs in the ecosystem right now, or most of the front-end tools in the ecosystem right now, they're not capturing all of this arbitrage value. It's still going to bots out there, and therefore whoever is generating or originating, I should say, whoever's originating these trades isn't actually capturing value from them. So that's the first step. And the second step to me is making this thing fully on chain. I think Redpoint in particular has a huge advantage over other searchers out there that do arbitrage searching. Even if they try to use the same technique that we came up with, which was packaging the two swap messages into the same transaction, they won't be able to replicate what we're able to do on chain. Our algorithm's very efficient. It doesn't use looping or a lot of these other techniques. Like you'll see some open source software out there that basically has very inefficient mechanisms to calculate this stuff. So we really believe that at some point in the next year, we're going to release this as kind of an on-chain smart contract module that people will be able to plug into their DEXs.
Okay, that's awesome.
Is it going to be affected by, there's obviously we've had the skip guys on and stuff like that. Is it going to be affected by some of the developments in the space where there's there's an arms race beginning to develop around flash loans, for example, and MEV is obviously the other big topic where people are going to increasingly be watching what's sort of proposed in a block and then using bots to say use MEV for additional leverage to gain an advantage in these kind of scenarios. Is the solution so efficient by comparison that it doesn't matter, or is there a way of taking those things into account, or is that actually part of the arms race and it's kind of out of band of where things are now?
So that's a very interesting question. And I think what you're referring to is kind of the Skip's logic is basically that searchers should participate in an auction,
right,
to figure out who can generate the most MEV for the chain, and whoever wins that auction, should get the opportunity to do that. I don't necessarily disagree with that rationale, but I think it's, in practice, it can be very problematic. Number one, because a DEX like Astroport or like Wind, they are not the chain. They are a smart contract system lying on top of the chain. So any off-chain auction that these kind of DEXs participate in, it can actually be front run by something like Skip Select, which runs on Juno and other chains, right? So it isn't necessarily efficient or even possible to do these off-chain auctions in the way that is currently being presented today.
Okay. But I guess also my question was, is there a I guess that actually probably the answer to my question is quite straightforward, which is probably not, unless you run a modified binary that you've modified yourself as a validator, actually, which looks in the mempool to you. So there's actually, I think that because of the atomicity you're talking about, there actually isn't a way that I can think of straight off the top of my head necessarily that you could actually upset as long as you can calculate a reasonable bound for what the ARB opportunity is, as long as you package the transactions together. I think you're quite hard to front run in Cosmos, is my feeling. But
yeah,
I'm wondering if there is a scenario where there is a vector where somebody could see that there is, there's let's say it's successful and there's like a significant amount of volume. Is there an incentive for somebody to basically come up with that solution that is actually able to front run it?
I can't think of how there could be, because like when you package transactions, they have to go through together or they don't go through at all. So if you're already rebalancing your own unbalance, then there's not really any opportunity for someone else to sandwich trade you.
You would have to
like even MEV.
Yeah, and that's by design, right? It would be if that design gets changed, it would be very much like saying, oh, well, we just don't want Redpoint to exist in this ecosystem, so like we invented a new way to prevent it. That in my mind would kind of be like along those lines. But at present, I think, and this is why we kind of designed Redpoint this way, it should be like that. There should be a way for a DEX like Astroport or whoever is designing their own solutions to say, like, I want these things to run as a unit. Whether that's MEV or not, it doesn't have to be, but I like the current design of the SDK being like that. And going back to the topic of like on-chain versus off-chain auctions, like if you're a DEX like Astroport, you can't really run this this off-chain auction effectively, which is my argument for why it's problematic, is because any searchers that participate in this off-chain auction don't actually know which transactions and what order they will be in the blocks that they're actually betting on, right? Because it's an off-chain auction, let's say the chain gets really busy on Terra or any other place where an auction like this ran, how do you actually know the ordering or even amount of transactions that will eventually end up in the block? It's really just guesswork. So I think anyone who enters into this kind of auction scenario off chain is gonna have kind of they're gonna run into problems as we get to a bull market or a busier market where searchers start underbidding because the searchers aren't actually sure like about the accuracy of their estimates.
That makes sense. I'm going to. I think that was the end of my questions. I mean, I'm not the DeFi guy here, right? That's about as clever as I can pretend to look for as long as I can pretend
That's
to
null, right?
look
Is he
like
the
it knows,
DeFi guy?
look like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a DeFi guy.
We don't,
We're
right?
degen guys.
Do we want it?
We're like fucking 4 degens and that's it.
Yeah,
Well, it's kind of a weird position too, because your market is almost the customer as opposed to the exchange itself, which I think is fairly unique, right? Like there's almost an argument to be made that one thing you could do is create this as an API for users, and for them to use it, like let's say you get 10% of the ARB that they get out of using it, right? It's a pretty unique value proposition, in my opinion.
I feel like the exchange is a customer as well because it's a good draw card for customers if you have that functionality. So
yeah,
I can say that the very first tool that released was called Defiant Swap, and it was kind of targeted at users, where a user could, using a CLI in their ledger, they could just do a swap and they would get that arbitrage back themselves as long as they had enough of the asset to do the arbitrage. And then, Kyle, feel free to correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I believe the original proposal that got put onto Astroport was actually favored very heavily towards the users, where it's like, hey, the users should get most of the rewards. Like, they're the ones who did the swap. They should be getting like at least 80% of the arbitrage return. But it seems like the community in general that are able to influence this decision feel like it should be balanced differently.
the fucking community, the biggest degens of all, eh?
Yeah, and Dan, the proposal that was put on Astroport basically just called out the fact that the Astroport community can choose how much money goes back to the users as a percentage. It didn't specify what percentage should go back to the user, but I agree with you that the Astroport community did not seem interested in returning a percentage of that to the user.
So is that like a param?
So it's part of the smart contract system. So for basically the proposal to Astroport and the proposal we're making to other dexes is you can use our API offline, right? Or sorry, off chain, I mean, and query our API, and then you can submit the trades with our smart contract on chain. So like on Terra and on Juno, we'll have a smart contract. We actually already have a smart contract, which was for Juno Swap, which we obviously know is now basically gone. But anyway, you can submit the actual trades to that smart contract and it will divvy up the funds in the way that you want. So it could send 80% to one address and 20% to another address. So that's basically the concept.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. Well, yeah, I'm out of questions. I'm exhausted on questions unless anyone else has any.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll say that I didn't say about like Defiant as a whole is what you guys do. We run a lot of validators, and I actually have a fun story I can tell you guys about today. I didn't even so I also work at Strangelove, right? And we have some great mechanisms in place there for like notifying us of like when chain upgrades happen. And Strangelove does not validate on Kujira, but Defiant Labs does. So I totally missed the Kujira update today. I started seeing some alerts on my Discord bot. I was like, oh, why is my Kujira node down? Hopped in the Discord, saw that they did an update. I was like, oh shit, I gotta really quickly build a new image. And man, it was a nightmare. Something with the new build process, they weren't supporting cross architecture builds. I usually build stuff so it'll work on both ARM and AMD. So I had to like completely rewrite my Docker file so that it only builds on AMD 64, get rid of all the Alpine stuff in there. And now it made the Docker image go from like 160 megs to 3 gigs. So now everything's taking longer to start up. And like, I was down for probably about 2 hours. I was like, man, I'm going to have to bail on Game of Nodes if I can't get this working. But luckily I'm here.
Wow, you are one of the few and the proud that run Cosmos on Docker.
Seriously.
I've only heard of a couple. You got like
Right.
EcoStake and now Defiant Labs. That's all you got.
Right.
Well, Strangelove does too. We both run fully in Kubernetes.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
say he
that's
doesn't
okay.
run Dockerfile. He runs Kubernetes. Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. Including Horcrux and the whole situation. It's all orchestrated.
Yep, definitely. So
So
Are you
Dan,
on,
what's the
you on
what's the-
GCP or are you
Yeah, it's all
self-hosted? Are you self-hosted Kubernetes platform that you've deployed yourself?
yeah, I am on GCP. I've also tried out these same like scripts that I have on AWS just to make sure that if something happened to Google, that I'd be able to migrate very quickly. But yeah, as you know, Kubernetes is Kubernetes in most places, and it's pretty easy to redeploy if you have to.
What's
Yeah.
the tell us about the Strangelove alerting on upgrades, because we were just actually talking about this today because Todd, friend of the show, was talking about like building a way to be able to create meeting requests and actually put it in the calendar for like, you know, knowing that when upgrades are going and like having some to-dos around it. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I don't know if you can build this, because we basically have this cool guy at Strangelove named Jay. He kind of like helps us out with this. So Jay will hop around all the Discord channels, he'll watch the Polkachoo Interchain Watcher. He just like every day looks on there. It's like, is there something significant happening this week? And then he updates a shared calendar for all of us on the engineering team.
Oh, okay.
And so like what happens for us is we see on our calendars that there's an upgrade. And then if we want to like do the upgrade, like if it's say like I want to do the next upgrade, I would just like tag myself as an assignee on that event, and then I would take care of it.
You should just publicize on ICS as a shared calendar externally.
That's a good idea. I'll
Yeah.
reach out to
Then
Strangelove
we-
about that.
Yeah.
New app chain, one that shares upgrades. That's all it does.
Upgrades for all the
That's the whole chain. Exactly.
Cosmos chains.
Yeah. Cow
Out
chain.
of pure curiosity, I obviously am known on this from this group self-flagellating by running on AWS in terms of cost. How have you found GCP in terms of cost and also, you know, the Kubernetes experience for Cosmos? Because although it will aggravate Null to use the A word over on the Aptos thing, we use Kubernetes and blah 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 blah, and it's expensive for various reasons, but Cosmos, it just, I don't know, it kind of we started off trying to be super fancy, and we've gradually migrated in the direction of more kind of a bare metal type setup over time. So I'm kind of curious about what's led you to keep that architecture.
Yeah. So basically, I chose this just based on past experience. It's definitely more expensive, and I've actually talked to Schultz about this before. Right now for Defiant, we run 3 validators. We validate on Osmosis, Kujira, and Odin protocol. Plus we run the Sycamore Tax app, plus we run the Redpoint API. And all of that right now costs us about $40 a day to run for that. Our validator is very minimal right now. Our validator is 1 Sentry, so there's no high availability on our validator. But if we had to, we have it all like coded up in Terraform.
Sure.
So if like
Yeah, you
a
could do it.
region went down or a zone went down, we can very quickly with a snapshot from Polkachoo and our scripts get back up in less than an hour on pretty much all chains.
My man, you need to like ditch that shit and go bare metal degen fucking. I'll hook you up. I'll tell you the cheapest way to run it.
$40 a
take you up
day
on
or
that.
$40? Exactly.
I can get you that
Exactly
$40
right.
for a fucking month.
Or a year, $40 a year per chain. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the big deal for me
When
is
the
I
bear
really want to
market hits
stay in.
around here, our degeneracy really fucking comes out.
And I'm more impressed with you holding on to Odin, since I'm also an Odin validator. Boy, are you losing on that one, dude.
Yeah, so actually, I just joined Odin about a month ago.
Yeah.
They said that they were looking to expand their val set,
They are.
and so I'm just trying it out. They gave us an official delegation. I think it was like 500,000 Odin or something like that. I think that's what they give to everyone, I'm guessing. But yeah, so I'm on
Good.
there. I've only bought about 20 cents of Odin myself just
Yeah.
to activate, and then everything else is there. So
I'm
I don't know
sure
if it's
that I
positive.
have a fucking Genesis bag floating around somewhere that I just like delegated to someone when I left and can no longer find.
I
One thing I'll
actually
say,
had to
though, is that-
unbond on Odin.
Oh yeah.
Did you unbond?
I had to. Yeah, my machine actually died, and since Odin doesn't support multi-signers,
They don't.
I had to unbond in order to not be jailed, and I actually rebonded. I don't know, a couple hours ago. So I was unbonded
yeah.
for like 3 days.
Yeah, they have that SEP 256 key or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Where you can't
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, they
Yep.
changed the key structure. Yep.
Tell me, how's development going on Odin? Like, what are the prospects looking like over there, boys?
So
That sums it up.
they,
It's quiet. It's quiet.
That sums it up.
it seems like there's not a lot of chain development happening. They're doing things on the side. So like they have a new wallet being developed for one, and I know
like
they have
Wallace or something, right?
Wallace sounds right. Yeah,
Odin's the Oracle one, right?
that's correct. It's a fork of Band. Yeah.
Why the fuck do they need a
I think they
wallet?
didn't they pivot though. Why are we talking about Odin? I'm
Did
sorry.
they
I brought it
pivot?
up.
I don't know.
I think they pivoted like 2 or 3 times. Yeah, I think they're trying to find what it is because I thought there was a gaming thing too because that was the other thing. The
But that was
founder had like a
passive.
gaming. No. It's a different-
No,
different
that came
shit chain, dude.
before. That came before. So they had like a geo. The original thing was geo. So they had like blockchain geocaching,
Right.
I believe is what it was.
Right.
And so they've kind of integrated that into Odin. I think that's actually kind of cool. Geocaching on blockchain.
Yeah, but that's
I'm
just
also like
such a smart
geocaching
contract
nerd.
use case. You're just like
It is.
geocaching. You mean storing 2 GeoJSON coordinates on a database? Oh, kill me with the complexity of storing 2 JSON because it's literally like in GeoJSON. It's literally what it's been a long time since I've worked with GeoJSON, but I think it's
You need a
literally
mutability.
an array
Yeah, exactly.
with 2 items. You're like, oh my god, the complexity.
Well, hold on now. You can back up, all right? You can also get an NFT if you get a like go to a geocache, all right? Like that's kind of cool. I enjoy that a lot. I don't know if you can actually do that on Odin, but I'm
Yeah.
enjoying
Yeah.
myself over
I
here.
kind of wanted to do. I've literally been too lazy to do this, but I worked out how. Like, it's fucking trivial to do as far as I can tell. The big problem is basically lining it up with a base map, which was the fucking bane of my life when I used to do administrative geography on British government stuff because nothing ever.
Excuse
fucking lines
me? Can we unpack that?
Yeah, I didn't know you worked on base maps, man. I worked at Esri for
You worked at
6
Esri?
years or so. I actually wrote their JSON schema for all their mapping. So
Oh,
like
shit.
everything, the reason why you can take maps from like mobile to desktop to web is basically because of me.
Hold on.
You
Back it up
basically
even further. I worked at Rand McNally 30 years ago? 30 years ago, digitizing actual paper maps into digital layers that they're using from a CAD structure to be able to recreate maps at any size. There you go.
That's
well,
awesome.
if it helps at all, I've extensively used QGIS. So
What the hell is that?
QGIS, it's like,
like
the
a
open
GIS
source
server,
GIS.
isn't
Yeah.
If you've ever been to the Esri subreddit, though, oh man, it
Esri is a
is-
crazy. That's a cool tool set, but it's like it's.
I've
really
only had
nuts,
to
like,
use that
terms
shit
of-
a couple of times, and it was just to like
crazy
munch the
expensive.
data, so I could then be like,
It's
fine, it's in
insane.
JSON
Yeah.
now. I don't have to give a fuck.
Right.
It
Uh,
is like, man, GIS is fucking phenomenal when you
How did
can
we get on
like
this fucking
leverage
topic?
some of the tools. It is
Um,
like fucking phenomenal.
The point was, the thing I wanted to do
Yes.
was a DGen NFT where, because obviously I'm a dickhead who likes riding bikes up hills, I wanted to do NFTs of
Two
hill
things,
climbs.
right?
Because
You wanna do a what?
all you need is there's a file format called FIT, which is basically data from a GPS unit.
Okay.
So you need to just parse that on a front end, essentially, take the start and end point, and then the delta of the time you enter that on the GPS thing, where it's taking like whatever, like several sample every 100th of a second, I think. And then you can get a time from top to bottom, and then you can store that on chain and then mint an NFT.
I mean, that'd be kind of cool. Strava needs something to like disrupt them. They're
Yeah.
they have no competition really.
Yeah, this would be
And-
like well, okay, it's not quite a piece of piss. It's actually like maybe a month's worth of work, which is why current circumstance I don't have the time to do it. But It was. I originally started coding something for the original Hack Juno, and then got distracted with various other things that were, frankly, much higher priority. So there's some code in the Never Never pile at the moment for that one. Somebody did launch something on Terra though, similar, but I think it died. Like I
Hey,
saw.
Frey,
some code.
do those
Oh, that's
fit
kinda sad.
files, do they only have location data, or do they also have things like heart rate and like that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, anything that you care that you have recorded from whatever the sensor array is to whatever the recording unit is. So all of the different sensors talk Bluetooth or ANT plus to the recording unit, and then the recording unit compiles the fit file.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which
That
is
sounds pretty
just one of
sweet.
the many formats. I think there's actually several formats that are kind of similar, but I think FIT is the one that I know of.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen GPX a lot as well too.
Yeah, GPX is the base map plus overlay. So I think the GPX file is the one that also has no, it doesn't have directions. It's just a mapping of start to endpoint. And then there's a separate format for like, to get from the start to endpoint, you have to go left, right, left, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, whatever, to get the whole way around the route that you've marked. That's why you need to pay like a third party like Garmin or somebody some extra money, because you have the base map and then you have the whatever that thing's called, the overlay with the directions. It's all quite complicated actually. But like at the heart of it, if you just wanted to like degen an NFT, that bit's quite simple. Is what I meant, because it's just GeoJSON, and they're all fucking lines as well on roads. Although I guess people like Highlander that do mountain biking, that's probably
I'm a mountain biker too.
It's probably a more complicated
that puts the fear
geometry
in
for
me.
mountain biking, because it'd be like a big wiggly guy.
I've tried mountain biking and I'm too much of a weenie. I'm like, that tree's coming at me like real fast.
You get used to it. I really enjoy like riding like off-road things and recording them, and then going onto something like OpenStreetMaps and uploading the trails. And then like you can like, if you do that, you can often pick the name of the trails. So I thought it might be kind of cool to like have some fun trolling there, picking some funny names, so that when people are like on the Strava, they're like, what the fuck is this?
What is the
Strava.
osmosis trail?
Yeah.
You know, on Strava, you can name the segments as well if you're the first one to define them.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. What's this degen trail?
Yeah,
What the hell's going on? What's Big Balls blockchain trail? Where's this thing go?
Big Balls way.
Big Balls way.
Yeah, there's places in the world where there's like 10,000 Strava athletes and they're all competing for every like inch of everything, and you're not going to find a segment you can make there. But if you're like, if you go like I was with some friends a couple of years ago in like a really rural bit of France where there was a road to literally an abandoned village, and then at the abandoned village it was a dead end. You're like, name away, because there are not many Strava athletes here, except for I think it was like Lilian Carmajan, the rider I'm thinking of. There's somebody on Azure Desert Citron who lives in that area, and it was just like one of those where there were these random hills with like, this has been ridden by 10 people, and the person who got the quickest time was 10 minutes quicker than everybody else and is a world tour rider. It's just like this guy who just lives in that part of France and is like, well, I guess I ride up everything. That's what I do. And that's why I'm...
connect the, like, for example, like when you're biking and generating fit data, if you could connect that to like geocaching on the blockchain, where it's be like almost you have to like do this event in the real world on a bike in order to unlock something.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't that be freaking cool? I'd be
that's what I'm saying. It is possible to link the two up. Like the only problem you'll have is that, I mean, I guess you guys know this because you work with geodata, is that the recording is always a bit fucked. So you kind of need a little bit of fuzziness, and that's the bit where you need like some off-chain stuff to go like Elasticsearch Geo Search is really good for that. Actually, it's really good for just going like, is this roughly what I meant? And it's like, kinda. You're like, they match. Chalk it up as a match. Like I'm convinced that's why there's the big report button on Strava, because the chalk it up as a match is definitely what Strava does behind the scenes with Elasticsearch.
I don't think they even do that much. I mean, there's been times whenever I accidentally left my Strava on and like drove like 20 miles, and they were like, "Wow, you got so many KOMs. You are so good." And I was like, "Oh Jesus."
You know, there's a whole
That's not what I
Twitter account
wanted.
for that. There's somebody made a bot that just watches Strava for like public runs or rides, I think, that are over a certain miles per hour, and they just like post a sarcastic comment like, "This guy's going like a train," and it's like there's just like somebody getting on the train in Brussels and then going to Paris, and it's obviously just the high-speed train.
Well, you'd imagine that Strava would be like, okay, so this is over 20 miles per hour. I'm just gonna like, I mean, not 20 because I can hit like 50 going downhill on my bike, but like, come on now.
This person's been doing
That's
300
fast, man.
kilometers
I'd
an
be
hour
afraid to go
throughout.
50 miles per hour.
Yeah, I think the
Definitely
quickest I
gotta
ever
start
got on a
tucking.
bike is 82 kilometers an hour. So
It's fucking fast, man.
yeah, it was with the tailwind on a plateau up in the north in the mountains. But it was that was like when you see the people like in the professionals where they're doing like 95 kilometers an hour downhill, you're like, literally, I did it on a well-maintained bike on a reasonable road surface, and it felt like the thing was going to shake itself to pieces and take off into the air.
Yeah,
It was terrifying.
those
There's
teams.
this.
Those teams have chase teams, and they have 25 bikes and like 100 engineers. It's just you and your balls on that fucking bike.
Like, it was so
it's
big.
not the exact same situation,
Saddle.
right? There's like 100 people looking at that bike to make sure it's fine. You're just like, it's good. These guys do it. No
Well,
problem. Let's
I
send
had
it.
just gotten the aero bars, and I just got a new carbon bike. So I was like, oh yeah, there's like a 21% grade hill near where I live that goes for about a mile, and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it. Perfect. And so I did, and I hit like 50 miles per hour.
Has anyone ever witnessed the Superman on a bicycle?
Not in
I've done-
person.
What, you mean like we put your chest on the seat and like put your legs out and everything?
Yeah, I've seen it like
Oh, yeah, when I was a
videos,
kid,
and
when I was
it
younger.
reduces
The
your
Supercar.
surface areas so
Oh,
much
Yeah.
that you
yeah,
can
I've-
like go faster downhill than people pedaling.
Dude,
Yeah,
God
I've-
forbid you hit like a pothole though. Like you would be really Superman then.
Was that
Yeah.
was that in Le Mans or not Le Mans?
It's
Whatever that was. Were
yeah,
they
it's been
the last leg?
banned now. It's been banned.
Is it?
That's
Why?
actually
Very
banned.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
reckon if you've got the balls to do a fucking Superman, you
You
deserve
deserve
to
it.
like.
Exactly.
No, they if you even do a version of it where you keep your hands on the tops and you put your and then you put your wrists on the tops and then you put your hands down and then kind of it's essentially like if you take your bum off the seat now
Yeah.
and your hands are not in the standard position, I think the fine is some bullshit. It's like 500 Swiss francs. Like nobody gives a fuck. But they can
Who gives a
take you
shit?
off they obviously can dock you your position. They can DQ you from that day or DQ
So,
you from stage
what
race. So
What about where they like they slide forward onto the little bar and like hold
that's
onto it with their
immediate
ball sack and
disqualification.
fucking
Yeah. that's super
Counting.
tuck.
yeah.
I occasionally do the super tuck and it is that is terrifying. So
It looks terrifying. It looks
And
like you have zero fucking control over that thing when you do that.
you don't have as much control. No, it is fucking fast though. Like if you have like a bit of a tailwind, it's quite a calm day, and you're confident in the road surface. If it's like good sight lines, and you don't mind just being like any car behind me has to just go fuck themselves. You can kind of super tuck, and people, people are just like, what the fuck is the psychopath doing? It's great.
Oh, who is this man and what the fuck is he doing?
What the fuck do you do? But then what you find is it's super efficient for a certain type of hill that is like the French, Swiss, and Italian mountains. Like if your hill is only 2 kilometers, it's probably more efficient a lot of the time at actually just to fucking pedal in the big ring. Or like Schultzy, if you've got aero bars and your balls genuinely are so swollen that you will go on the aero bars downhill. Which I used to have on aero bars on my commuter / touring bike, and I think I once went downhill on the aero bars, and I was like, no, like, and I'm a person that will do a super tuck, right? And I was like, no, never. It's too terrifying. It's just you're like arms outstretched. You're man, too insane, too insane.
So anyway, back to our guests, Dan.
Yeah, so-
So I'm curious, how much of the chains did you end up getting indexed?
Yeah, so far it's just Osmosis. We've indexed all of 2022. We just realized that we're missing a couple months of the Superfluid rewards, so we're going back and we're fixing that right now. And then we want to try to get all the. It's a little hard because Osmosis. Maybe Kyle can explain this part better, but like the message types kind of change over time. So like the indexer that's capable of like indexing blocks that are happening now, it might be like different, like messages like create balancer pool or swap exact amount in. Like they kind of change over time. Kyle, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, you pretty much have it exactly right. Like some of the message types have changed and they get removed from the SDK. So for external client tools like the text tool that we made, that impacts us. I think the Osmosis team, to be fair, is very aware of this now. So I don't know that they'll be doing that in the future. They'll probably like version, like if there's a new version of message create balancer pool or whatever, they'll probably version it and leave it in the SDK. And we did find a solution, which is basically to make folders in your client tooling with the custom codecs and then register them with the SDK. So it's not like it's an impossible hurdle, but not a lot of teams probably know how to do that or have done it before. But yeah, there's been some challenges, but the software is pretty stable now. Like Dan said, we're just going back and making sure we have all of the Osmosis rewards indexed. That's also been challenging because there's not a ton of archive nodes out there that actually have all that rewards data archived. And of those nodes, a lot of them don't have, there's like specific settings you have to be able to grab those rewards from the blocks.
Yeah, I'll say because this is a validator podcast, we should geek out on that part a little bit more. So like there's a setting in your config toml called broadcast TX timeout. And by default, it's set for 10 seconds. So if you're not able to query the data that you want within 10 seconds, you're going to get an EOF. So it's going to end a file you and cut you off. And that's what we were noticing a lot when we were indexing some of these like huge epoch blocks that happen once a day in Osmosis. So we ended up adjusting that setting to something ridiculous, like 10 minutes. And then we realized, hey, there's like a bazillion other transactions that are now available because we increased this timeout.
So is this this isn't for, so this is more like RPC archive node operators, right? Not validators. Like that timeout is specifically for when you're querying the RPC or the API.
Yeah,
it's when you're querying the RPC for the epoch rewards. So even if you're not an archive node and you just want to know like the details of the last epoch, you will probably need to like make that setting to be able to pull all the data down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, to answer your question, just Osmosis, but we definitely want to expand to other chains. So we think it'll be pretty easy to expand to chains that are very similar to like Osmosis that just have like the normal staking module, the bank, the gov, the auth, but other chains that have custom Cosmos modules, like for example, the Kujira Oracle module, like that's something that we would have to like do custom software for, or anything that like involves like a message execute contract that adds a whole another level of complexity where we'd have to parse the contract, figure out what kind of transactions it's doing.
Is your indexing like, have you written it entirely from scratch, or is that originally based on like BD Juno, or?
Kyle, you want to take that one?
Yep, it's written from scratch. Obviously, like it uses the tools that were already out there, like the Cosmos SDK and things like that. So we're as far as like RPC connections and things like that, we use the Cosmos tooling that was already available. As for parsing the actual messages, we do use the libraries in Cosmos SDK as much as possible, but those mostly just give you access to like events and attributes and things like that. And then if you want to do any custom analytics or, understand things in any way, you have to develop custom logic to do that. So that's what we've been doing. At this point, we have a lot of code that we can reuse in the code base. Like, so for example, integrating something like Kujira would be a lot easier now than it would be like 10 months ago. Because a lot of these chains share the same type of events when they're doing things like coin received or coin sent. And even if you have a smart contract based event that happens, it typically follows certain patterns. So that does make it a little bit easier, and we've designed our code base around that. But when you're dealing with smart contracts, you never know. It's really up to the contract author how they want to structure things, and what type of events get emitted and that sort of thing.
So with the general modules, like, well, with the data in general, like how are you actually storing that in the database? Like how are you translating the state into like database tables? Is it all like in one big table, or is it like each module has a table? Like I'm not into those types of things. I don't understand how that really works.
Yeah, so I come from a kind of probably typical computer science background. So I have a lot of experience with relational databases. So basically we tried to model it out as like blocks, blockchains. Everything has a separate table essentially. And when it comes down to the actual taxable data, I think the two models we generally used were taxable events and taxable transactions. And then within a taxable transaction, you have another table for like messages. So everything's kind of modeled the same way as the SDK models it. But we did follow best practices with relational patterns. So like if we wanted to do different lookups on that data in the future, like maybe when we want to follow the money of one specific account around, it should be pretty easy to design SQL queries to do that. So if somebody wants to take the product that we created, which is open source, by the way, and they want to target it more around general analytics or just anything other than tax data, they should be able to do that.
I mean, there's quite a big, there's a lot of talk about better CosmWasm indexing as well. So that's kind of the obvious one, I suppose, if there's, and obviously there are multiple indexing solutions and have various of them had various of a crack at it. I suspect the problem is as much availability as data, like you guys kind of hinted at earlier.
Well, I don't think there's any like one to rule them all in indexes, is there? Because everything's like quite bespoke now. You've got the SDK modules, but then anything like Kyle was saying, anything extra on top of that, like a custom module or smart contracting, all becomes sort of bespoke indexing from there. So
yeah. Well, and additionally, if the events that you want aren't exposed at the time you need them, you have to just go look directly in the state of the chain, which is what the DAO guys have done. That's their solution, isn't it? To run a custom binary.
So previously, like I tried to get some information back when DAO first launched. I was trying to get some information out of one of the DAO contracts, right? It was like some staking information for someone. It was just out of curiosity because someone had asked a question in a Discord, and I went down the rabbit hole of trying to like figure out what they were asking, and the only way to get it was to dump the state and decode everything, and then for each block there's like
that's how DAO index now. I think they literally run an RPC with a modified binary.
Yeah.
And each block it shoves it into a Postgres.
Oh right. Yeah, well, it was a huge pain in the ass getting that out. Like it was fucking pain in the ass for me anyway, being a retard.
Unrelated.
I was gonna ask, can you also there's a raw contract state query, I believe, for CosmWasm as well. Can you get some of that information with that query?
Oh, sorry, what was that query?
With which one?
I believe there's a raw for CosmWasm. I believe there's like a raw contract state query you can run.
Yeah, that was the one. It was just like a state dump.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that just dumps the whole thing. Is it paginated or not? I can't remember.
I can't remember, but it was like all encoded, and you had to like unencode each bit. and they were encoded in different ways, and it was
Yeah,
it was fucked.
that's not too bad. So we had to do that for the HAL drop, like just dump the. So the raw state from memory, I think it is paginated because it's quite hard to get the whole thing. So I think Usurper actually ended up just dumping the chain state in full for us. Maybe somebody did, or maybe it was you, Null. It was one of the
Yeah,
Game
I
Nerds
got
crew.
it done for you. Yeah.
You just dumped the whole chain state because the CLI version wasn't giving us everything we needed. So I think you just did a full dump, and then obviously you then just go, because it's just JSON, you just grab the smart contract you're after and then throw it into a data pipeline in Rust and just let it do its thing. But it was, yeah.
I do remember doing
pain in
that,
the
but
nuts.
now I have the question of why the fuck didn't you just do it yourself? Do you not have a validator?
It's gonna be fucked, really.
Yeah, I don't help any. I don't help anybody.
It's like, hey,
so it
Nell,
wasn't-
you got anything to do? Because I can't be
wasn't
fucked
me.
to do this.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
it
think
definitely wasn't me.
I think, joking aside, it was at a time when we were fucking around moving the node onto TMKMS and stuff, and it was just like there's just I don't want to turn shit off or fuck around with exports or anything in case this shit doesn't turn back on because I
Just
don't
give this
trust
a
it yet.
null.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
do. I think I remember. I think you were like, "Do you have a node you can turn off?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I don't give a shit.
it's a big. It was. I mean, the Juno dumps are quite big, aren't they? When
It
if you
takes
do
a fair
full
while
dump.
as well. It takes like a good, 10 or 15 minutes to actually dump it.
Would you remember in the first cyber attack, one of the things that took the longest actually in the restoration of the chain was that we needed multiple dumps to see the block before the problem, the block of the problem, and then the one where consensus failed. And just getting each block initially, like getting a dump at that block, just took fucking ages for a full block from the archive node.
Yeah, it
Everybody's
takes a long time to dump sometimes, and sometimes you get So I remember that someone was trying to get a dump from me for something. I can't remember who it was or what it was for, but it kept EOMing. Like it's just the dump was so hard on the RAM. Like I had 128 gigs of RAM on this thing, and it, like out of memory, fucking just trying to do a state dump. So
I think that was me. I think I was asking for a dump for a Cosmos endpoint, and you were like, "Yeah, I can't do it. Can't do it."
honestly, I don't know why people keep asking me for dumps.
There's just a group somewhere where people are like, need a dump? Go to this guy.
Go to this guy.
Nell's
That's
got
how it
what
works.
you need.
So okay. Look at also I'm saying I'm looking at the clock. We've got a limited amount of time with our guests.
The Nixie clock.
Run it down. Run it down.
Right
Well,
now.
yeah. So I was saying to Usurper earlier that I was jealous of the cool clock he has in the background.
My
I kinda
UTC
wanna-
clock.
I kind of want to get a cool clock for the background, but the problem is like, where would I put it? Like in the pocket of the cycling jersey? Like where
You'd have to-
there's no
You'd have
fucking
to
space
you'd have
there.
to rearrange that pile of garbage you have behind you.
Pile of
Just
garbage.
Stick it on a
fucking
bike seat.
laundry and racks of shit. That's
This is not laundry. These are all clean clothes. Obviously.
they?
Yeah.
why do you hang them like
Cycling.
laundry?
For
Because
some
it's
reason,
like-
that's the way you do biking jerseys. I think every single biking jersey I've seen is hung up like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you just wash them and you throw them.
Thrown over shit.
It's a big yeah.
I mean, you got
So-
the Marshall. You got the. I see a
Yep.
Marshall back there, but it's not in frame. Then you have like
Yeah, there's a
What
Mesa Boogie down here.
what's
There's a-
behind you? What's the little black thing sticking up? Is that like a rack
Wh-
that's not doing anything? The other
I
side.
just poke my
No,
hand.
the other side. The other side. Other shoulder.
It looks like an amp back there. So
you mean
other
this
side,
way,
other
yeah?
side,
See,
next to your
yeah.
bikes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a Marshall, right? That what
Yeah,
that
there's
is?
a Marshall half stack.
But what's behind
Yeah.
you though? What's that thing?
That's
Those
a
are
bike.
bikes back there.
Is that a bike?
Looks like
That's
looks
a
like
bike
mounted
stopper,
bikes
yeah.
for
Aren't you in
trainers.
the attic? What do you bring that thing down 3 flights of stairs?
They're trainers, right?
Yeah, when I'm going outside. Yeah. That's my race bike.
In the US,
And
are these
then-
things called garages?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't. Clearly I don't have a garage, so
So I love how
Wait,
I love
hold
how
on,
the
sis. Check out my
these are
trainer.
these are
See that? Is it
There you
showing?
go.
What's that?
oh yeah I can see.
Oh,
that.
yeah, look at all
these are
that over
actually
there.
garage
Yeah, I've got
shells.
a
Nice.
mountain bike on a TACX Neo, which is like the greatest trainer ever. I don't know if you
That's
guys have
pretty
seen
cool.
those, but they can actually simulate like the surface that you're on. So if you're like riding in Zwift, which is like a virtual way to ride. So like when you pedal, your avatar in the game will ride. If you go over pedals or like pebbles, the trainer itself will like simulate that you're riding on wooden planks, pebbles by like shaking your chain, so it feels like you're really on that
a
tactile
gimmick or
surface.
is that actually good?
That's interesting. Dan,
Yeah,
I should add you on
this is
Zwift.
novel.
I use it too.
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
cool.
do you
Sure,
use,
I'll
do you
shoot
use
you mine.
Zwift? This has gotten peak fucking nerds, hasn't it? Now it's just like
exactly.
Do we use Zwift? Yeah,
Game of
training
Chains group ride.
keyboards.
cool.
Sorry, Game of
yeah.
Nodes.
Yeah,
There's two.
yeah. You could add us some Zwift. The Game of Nodes fan club.
What the fuck? There's 1/3 of this stream has keyboards in the background.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I used
it's
to play the
really fucked
piano a
up.
while ago.
Yeah,
piano
and
piano
bikes
behind Dan. Wait, where's the?
and laundry.
1/3? Oh yeah, 2.
Yeah.
Do you have?
How much whiskey have you had tonight?
Wait,
I like
who's the
when
keyboard?
Noel drinks on the stream. This is the new thing because he's actually in the right time zone.
You know, yeah, this is the first time I've actually had any liquor on the stream.
How is it better?
Yeah. I mean,
And not drinking.
I don't know.
Boys will be boys.
I do love how like the phrase said, "Oh, the time's running out. Let's like pay more attention to our guest," and then immediately started talking about jerseys and fucking keyboards.
I'm pretty sure I was.
Hey,
not
I'm
on
enjoying
there.
the conversation.
Anyway, I feel like we also have some quick points of order. We should probably
Oh yeah, let's do it.
we're gonna talk about Comfy DAO. Maybe we should get Cause Less Harm on to talk about Comfy DAO at some point, or just drop
yeah,
in.
we could do that.
have a
yeah,
chat
we
about
can
it.
do that.
He was
Hey,
on earlier, so maybe he'll join now.
There was
with
there was
5
four
minutes
four
rating.
tombstones today.
What's that?
4 tombstones today on Say
Was
Network.
there?
Yeah.
No.
Oh yes.
Mainnet.
A lot.
No,
No,
testnet.
They're not on mainnet. It's just a testnet. Atlantic 2.
Wait, on
So
Atlantic 2 there
exciting.
was 4. There was 4.
Yeah, 3 of them were like team nodes, and then who was the 4th? Schultzy.
Ooh, Node Reel? No, it wasn't Node Reel. Hold on. I'll look back.
I didn't even.
Didn't
I didn't even see
Nim
anything about that.
wait, didn't Nim mainnet actually halt? But were there weren't any
Yes.
tombstones when it resumed, were there?
Well, they're all run by Figment. The top 4 nodes were run by Figment, and Figment was like, "Now we're leaving Nim," and so they lost like 45% of the voting power.
How fucking hilarious is that?
They're like, fuck you,
They
we're
didn't
out.
say-
Amazing.
They didn't have like an unbonding period. They didn't have like a cooldown period. As well.
They didn't unbond, they just fucking turned their shit off.
Jesus, like don't fucking delegate to Figment is the moral of that story. Christ.
My
So
my
Figment
prediction.
is shutting
happens
down
in that
fucking
situation
everywhere.
technically? Do
Everywhere.
you have to wait for like it to get slashed to the point where it doesn't have voting power?
They
Or
don't give a
what
shit.
happens?
I mean, we're on with like multiple different chains, right, including Aptos and everything else. My guess is they're gone in this year. Like
They're leaving like so many chains. It's fucking amazing.
I almost made a tweet because they keep doing the Twitters like what we're leaving. I almost made like a shitty tweet about maybe you could just tweet like what you're staying on.
Yeah, where you're staying.
It's like,
like-
maybe that'd be easier.
I reckon
Yeah.
they're banging up against the character limit, like putting all the networks they're fucking leaving.
Exactly. But like just from a node ops perspective and everything else, like I think they are in trouble. Like it just seems like they're in trouble.
I mean, I think they had the problem of funding, right? They received like what was it, like $2 billion of funding back in 2020, and they're like, okay, well, we should just hire all the people, right? And then they did, and then
It must have been a
2
$2 billion
billion is- it
valuation.
can't be that much, right?
Like,
I mean, employees are expensive. They're not that expensive, right? Like, and
Yeah.
they're not doing that much. I don't know what they have on the investment side because I'm guessing they've lost a ton of money and just putting money into chains.
maybe they just had
Yes.
everything in FTX.
They could.
they
could.
Maybe they had
could've.
everything in FTX, and then they had all their like cash in
Yeah.
SVP, and they just like, well, we're gonna get some cash back
Right.
in
They have-
4 years' time once this is all threshed out, and that's gonna be way too late.
Right, or they have 300 million in like 300 bad bets, right? Like, or 30 bad bets, or whatever. But whatever, whoever's running the node side of the house, like they have really it doesn't seem like it's a priority, is what I would say. Whether or not they're good operators or not, but it doesn't seem like it's a priority, and like they're not really responding quickly. They're not understanding what's going on in specific chains. Like it just seems like it's not a priority, I think is what it is, and that's turning into other issues. Anyway.
Yeah.
Cool
Yeah, I
story.
mean, he's I hadn't actually. I thought that the reason that the NIM hot happened, I knew Figment were involved in some way. I thought it was because they were white labeling several nodes, and they had, just
exactly.
simultaneously,
they shut them all down.
Simultaneously, fuck them. But they deliberately left. That's actually what happened, which is
Did they leave, or they just stopped validating?
all the more baffling. Like
assuming they just shut all those nodes down.
Assuming. And also, like chains, I have no sympathy for chains who sponsor that shit. Like, if you're a chain,